Picture this for a second. Every single night, while most of us were sleeping peacefully in our warm beds, a young guy named Ryan was out riding through freezing, completely empty city streets delivering food. He'd show up at an apartment, hand over a bag to a stranger who wouldn't even bother to look him in the eye, and head back out into the rain. He was, for all intents and purposes, invisible. But beneath that quiet exterior, he was carrying this immense pressure, adult-level responsibilities, and a dream that absolutely refused to die. Okay, let's dive into this. Today, we're doing an explainer on a truly incredible source story titled The Delivery Boy Who Refused to Stay Poor. It's a real game changer about how true success actually comes from quiet discipline, not just sudden lucky breaks. Right, so to really understand this transformation, we have to look at the foundation. Ryan's childhood was literally defined by one thing: constant financial survival. He grew up in this tiny apartment where the roof leaked every time it rained, and both his parents were working grueling back-to-back shifts just to keep the lights on. His mom worked in a hospital cafeteria, his dad drove late-night taxis. And Ryan noticed everything. He saw the unpaid bills sitting on the counter. He saw the fake smiles they used to try and shield him from the stress. Carrying that kind of heavy burden meant he went to school feeling so much smaller than his peers. Kids who had expensive clothes, new phones, and the freedom to just, be kids. But inside that quiet, stressed out kid was this really dangerous, really powerful spark of defiance. He told himself, "My life will not stay like this forever." So at just 16, while most teenagers were carelessly enjoying their youth, Ryan started taking on part-time jobs in restaurants and warehouses. He'd do anything to help his family. He became exhausted way earlier in life than anyone should be. But this singular belief that his current reality was definitely not his permanent reality became his absolute anchor. And this perfectly captures the massive modern trap he found himself in by the time he was 19. On one side, you have the fake social media reality. The one: fast cars, luxury lifestyles, easy money being flaunted 24/7. But on the other side was his reality: driving a motorcycle through freezing storms, completely ignored by the world. This contrast hit a boiling point one night when he carried heavy bags up 6 flights of stairs, only to have a customer literally scream in his face because traffic made the food a few minutes late. Walking back down those stairs, he was absolutely terrified. Terrified that this humiliation was going to be his entire future. That specific night was the breaking point. Picture him parked on a dark, rainy street, staring out at the distant city lights. He felt completely, utterly trapped. He just sat there and cried quietly, just from the sheer exhaustion of it all. And then his phone battery died. Boom. Nothing. But in that sudden, dark silence, without the distraction of a glowing screen or another incoming order, something incredible happened. A massive pivot was born in his mind. Out of that profound, heavy silence came this crystal clear realization: if I keep living like this forever, nothing will change. This exact thought changed absolutely everything. Why? Because in that moment, sitting all alone in the rain, he finally stopped waiting. He stopped waiting for motivation to magically strike. He stopped waiting for perfect conditions, and he stopped hoping for a lucky break. He realized that if his future was ever going to improve, he had to take total accountability right then and there. So what did he actually do? Well, the very next morning, he implemented what became his invisible routine. He just started waking up earlier than he had to. He started exercising to build up his mental resilience. He started reading books during his quick delivery breaks, and he began learning high-leverage skills like communication and business online. Now, externally, he was still just a delivery driver. Nothing looked different. But internally, He was undergoing a complete architectural rebuild of his entire mind. So, the crucial point is really just one word: discipline. It meant doing the quiet, painful work of daily improvement while literally everyone else around him was chasing comfort. Ryan would listen to educational podcasts while riding his motorcycle in the cold, and he'd study successful people late after his shift. His new philosophy became so clear to him. Successful people aren't necessarily more talented, they are simply way more disciplined. Tracking his journey over the years reveals a pretty brutal reality, though. Growth is incredibly lonely. We start at age 16 with those part-time survival jobs, leading up to age 19 where the heavy delivery work brought him to his breaking point. But by age 21, while his old friends were out partying and living it up, Ryan stayed home. People even mocked him for it. They'd laugh and ask if watching motivational videos on his laptop was going to magically make him rich. But you know what? He just stopped explaining himself. He learned early on that those who don't understand your vision are always going to criticize your discipline. Of course, the universe always tests you before it promotes you, right? Ryan's test came when his motorcycle completely broke down in the middle of heavy rain, requiring repairs he absolutely could not afford. And without that bike, he couldn't work. Quitting felt so easy at that point. But then again, pain had followed him his whole life anyway. So instead of throwing in the towel, he went out, borrowed some tools, spent days learning basic mechanics online, and he fixed the whole shebang himself. Now, what's really fascinating about this is the profound psychological shift that happened right after. One night, while waiting around for orders, he took out his notebook and wrote down a single phrase: "My current situation is temporary." He just stared at those words. Temporary, not permanent. He finally understood he was no longer a victim of his circumstances. He was simply a student passing through them. And honestly, this right here is the ultimate mindset shift that separates the highly successful from the people who just stay stuck. The old mindset dictates that problems are proof of failure, right? Like if things are hard, it must mean you're losing. But the new mindset, it treats problems as training, period. Because of this flip, Ryan permanently stopped feeling ashamed of his grunt work. He completely stopped comparing himself to the fake luxury he saw online because he knew exactly what he was building in the shadows. He was basically using his brutal environment as his personal training grounds. Every single long night in the freezing rain built up his endurance. Every slammed door built his emotional strength. Every ounce of pressure built ironclad discipline. You see, real success is built quietly, totally without applause or shortcuts. Ryan was actively chasing growth and purposefully leaning into the friction, all while everyone else was running toward comfort. And then the universe finally responds to that kind of relentless improvement. 2 full years of silent, invisible work paid off in the most unexpected way. During a totally routine delivery, a customer happened to notice Ryan's business books sitting right there in his delivery bag. They struck up a quick conversation, and this customer immediately recognized Ryan's incredible mindset. A few days later, they actually reached out and offered Ryan a small online assistant role. Look, it wasn't a massive payout, but the opportunity, it was absolute gold. Naturally, he accepted it instantly. He dove headfirst into an absolutely brutal schedule. He'd tackle his new online business work in the early mornings, continue grinding out his deliveries in the evenings to keep his bills paid, and then study late into the night. His sleep was severely limited. Exhaustion basically became his new normal baseline. But Ryan stayed hyper-focused because for the very first time in his life, he had a tangible, real path out of poverty. 0. I want you to think about that number. After months turned into years of this relentless work, his business role expanded. He became incredibly skilled, and his income shot up dramatically. One evening at the grocery store, the amount of times he had to check prices before putting food in his cart for his family was zero. Think about what a massive emotional milestone that was. That wasn't luck. No way. That was quiet discipline, repeated daily for years. But the true reward wasn't even the money. It wasn't even seeing his mother smile more, though that was amazing. The greatest change was totally internal. That insecure kid who used to feel so much smaller than everyone else, he was gone, replaced by a man who was incredibly calm under pressure, fiercely focused, and quietly confident. Life still threw problems at him, for sure, but now he had this unquestionable belief in his own ability to figure them out. There's this great story where one night Ryan drove past the exact same streets where he used to ride his broken motorcycle feeling completely hopeless. Those old streets used to be this crushing symbol of his struggle. But looking out the window now, they were a symbol of proof. The city hadn't changed at all. Ryan had changed. Those streets are literal, living proof that daily discipline can completely rebuild a human being from the inside out. Years later, when he was speaking at a youth event, someone raised their hand and asked what kept him going during those absolute hardest years. His answer was so simple, yet so powerful. He said, "I became tired of watching life happen to me, so I decided to build myself instead." The entire room went dead silent, because they all understood the truth in that moment. Strong people aren't just born different. They simply refuse to surrender during their most difficult seasons. And that brings us directly to you. Your future is not controlled by your current struggle. It's controlled by your repeated decisions. Listen, it really doesn't matter how broken your situation feels right now, or if people are completely underestimating you. If you apply discipline, patience, and consistency, you can transform absolutely any situation. You have the power to improve yourself daily, and daily improvement, that changes entire lives. So I want to leave you with this final provocative question. Will the pain you survive become the power that changes your life? Don't let your struggle be for absolutely nothing. If this explainer sparked something inside you today and you are truly ready to take immediate accountability for your future, go down to the comments right now and type "I will rise." Make that commitment to yourself today. Thank you so much for joining me, and keep building yourself.